See how many steps I got in. I got 7,600. Look at that. Wow.
Hey, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going?
Hey,
Happy Tuesday.
everybody.
Happy Tuesday.
Hey, LaShonda.
How's it going?
Hey, hey. Hey, all things. Cherie. Hey, Patricia Johnson. We're settling in slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. We're no longer rushing. It was a couple of weeks ago, I felt like we gotta hurry up and get this done. We gotta hurry up and get this done. Now it's like coasting.
Yeah. Hello, hello. It's good to see y'all, or at least see your names.
Yes. Um, Wanda Lyons, hey. Regina Beatty Green, hey. Pamela Haskins, hey. 30 years to get it done. All right. Thank you so much. Hey, United with God's Purpose. Buck Watkins. Oh, wow. As a
All
single
right now,
man.
single man.
All right.
That's what's up.
Hey,
Glad you
hey.
on. I'm gonna write that down.
Alvira Wilson, hey. Is it Jai Brett? Jai Brett, hey, hey. We were we got caught up in a movie. Hey, Terry, Betty Smith. Excuse me. We got caught up in a we when we got home from work. We was having dinner and start watching a movie and got caught up in the movie, and the movie just went off. So, hey, hey, Dimples. Hey, hey, Veronica. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Happy,
And
happy
of course, I was
Tuesday.
falling asleep, but the movie was so good. I was trying to stay awake, and I did. I mean, I got the gist of the movie. I mean, I didn't. It was. I got how long I stayed asleep? For about 30 seconds. 30 seconds, maybe. Hey, Ely. Oh, you missed us last week. We came on last week. Oh, you weren't on. You weren't in the private group last week, right? And then we didn't do a video. We didn't release a video on Sunday.
Right.
On this past Sunday. We I promise we're gonna get it together. But it was Father's Day.
Mm-hmm. I was with my son.
Yeah. We are going to get it together.
Yes, we are. Because we are excited. Whether we show it or not, we are really truly excited about this channel.
Yes, we are.
We love the
We're,
fact that God has given us a lane and a purpose just for us to do exactly what He asks us to do. So we
Yeah.
are really excited. And if you can't tell before now, you will be able to tell moving forward that we are amped about this platform.
Yes, yes. So happy Tuesday. We jumping
Yes,
in?
yes. So, for those of you, this is your first time with Terrence and Jill of God-Ordained Union, and we're here simply to do one thing only, and that is to help increase God-Ordained unions.
Yes, yes. So if you're single, this channel is definitely for you because the Lord called us to encourage singles,
Mhm.
especially singles who've been waiting for a long time for their person, for your person, and you're probably wondering what the heck is going on, probably wondering what's wrong with you, and it you just don't know what's
Mhm.
happening. You're getting discouraged. A lot of you are probably feeling hopeless. A lot of you, your faith is wavering. A lot of you are probably questioning your belief, wondering if God hears you. And the truth of the matter is that He does. The truth of the matter also is that for a lot of you all, which was my story, you are blocked up. Something is having you blocked.
Mhm.
And it can be anything from generational curses, patterns, um, um, unforgiveness. It could be soul ties. It could be fear. It can just be a lot of different things that could be holding you up. And so the Lord is saying, I have this person for you, and you're saying, I want the person, but you're like this. I want my
Mhm.
person, but you're blocked up. And so the Lord is not going to override your will, because He's given us free will. But once we surrender and we become, I believe that once we become um, just resting in the Lord, that's when you know, the word of God says, no good thing will He withhold from you if you walk upright before Him. And walking
Mhm.
upright as being in alignment, being in His will, not worrying about the timing, not worrying about who it is, where they are, how long they're going to come, when you're just putting it all in God's hands. And it's easier said than done. But on this channel, we help to encourage you. We also remind you of the tricks and schemes of the enemy, and a lot of times the enemy is within us. And so we like to blame external factors for all of the problems in our lives, but a lot of it is the choices that we're making, is the behaviors of how we're operating. A lot of us are operating and we're unseen. Your person can't see you. You're visibly going out to functions and activities and church activities and professional activities
Mhm.
and traveling, but your person can't see you. It's like you're blinded. You're hidden. And so on this channel, we try our best to show you, what could be happening, because that was again, that was my story. And we'll talk about briefly for all the new people, because we got a lot of new subscribers. We'll talk about briefly tonight, just an overview real quickly of how we met.
Mhm.
But so make sure you turn on your notifications, subscribe. We go live every Tuesday. Every single Tuesday we go live. If we're not live, we're resting,
Yeah.
but very rarely do we plan anything on a Tuesday. Either we're resting or we're here on live. For those of you who are just joining in on our channel, we just purchased a home. So for the last 2 months, it's been 2 months already, almost.
Yeah.
For the last month and a half, we've been settling into our new home. So that's why we haven't been really
As
on.
consistent as we were before.
Right. But we do pre-recorded videos. We drop those twice a week, every Sunday and Thursdays. We also have a private group that meets every first and third Tuesdays. And it's only $11 a month to join us. You can cancel at any time. You don't have to let us know that you're canceling. It's not one of those groups where you're, you know, hey, S. Lily, um, and so yeah, so also we have a prayer call that is actually is hosted by my mom, But Terrence is the inspirational speaker once a month. So you can join us on the prayer call every Friday night, starting at 11:50 p.m. It's a midnight prayer call. It is no cost. And what else? We have an ebook. So for the ladies, if you want to know those things that are blocking you up, we strongly suggest that you get the ebook. Download the ebook because it'll show you how to break those blocks. And so, yeah. What else? Also follow us on IG. That's where our day to day is, and that's where to get to know us more on a personal level. That's where we hang out. We also got one on ones. Our one on ones have been on hold since we've been moving, but we do one on ones. We're not therapists, we're not doctors, we ain't, relationship experts, none of those things. But the Lord has given us some wisdom, and so yeah, we like to believe that we have
Mhm.
mastered being in the single season. What you
And
think?
there's something else too that I think is important. We do our best to be as serious but as truthful as we can about everything that can the possibilities can be. Okay. And the one thing that I believe that we talked about in the past, and those of you that's been rocking with us know what this what I'm going to share. Once I say it, you're going to say, oh, okay, yeah, that's true. And that is you might want to learn the difference between wondering and waiting.
Yeah.
We talked about that in the past, and it's huge, the misconception or the misunderstanding of the difference in the two. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people say they're waiting and they're waiting and they're waiting on God and they've been waiting when actually in actuality they actually have been wondering.
Caught up in a cycle.
And what I mean by that is you aren't actually waiting according to our definition. You aren't actually waiting until you have released it to God completely.
And you
And when I
rest.
say release it, I mean you giving it to him and you trust him so much that you don't care what the result is or what the outcome is because you trust God and know that he knows best and he has your best interest at heart. So you aren't worried about the outcome because you trust everything he's doing. So you have released it. If you're still trying to control the narrative, if you're still trying to help God and say, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, then you actually aren't waiting. You're wondering. Why do we say wondering? Because you're getting in God's way
You're. It's just like the
and
children
you're
of Israel.
interfering with what he's trying to do for you. And as a result, you're not getting to where he needs you to be in order for him to do the proper introduction to who he has for you. So you have to get out his way and let God be God.
Hmm. We have a
Okay. Yeah.
video. We have a video, and I think it's called. I think it's called "Are You Wandering or Waiting?"
Mhm.
Um, and we did it like maybe last
Yeah.
year
It's been a minute.
or maybe the year before.
But it's just a reality check to say this is actually where you are. And until you can release it and give it to God completely,
mhm.
then you actually aren't waiting. You're actually wondering.
Which is a part of why you may not be visible,
Right.
why people may not be able to see you. And yeah. So yeah, make sure you if you join us on IG. Something else. Oh, somebody said how to get the ebook. All
Mm-hmm.
of that, and I can't even say is in the descriptions because I didn't even paste a description. You can go to our website www.agodordainedunion.com. Let me put it up here in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So get your questions together, baby. You wanted to say anything else?
Yeah. So, yeah, well, I was just going to say the same thing you just said. Yeah. Get your questions together because we want to answer as many questions as we can answer for you guys today.
Yeah. A God-Ordained Union.com. Let me see if I can pin this. To learn about everything,
Yes.
the private group, the one-on-ones, the prayer
Mm-hmm.
call, the ebook, all of that is on our website. So welcome all the new subscribers. We got some new subscribers, and we try to like every 30 days or maybe every 6 weeks try to just give a recap of how we met
Mm-hmm.
for all of the newbies. I know the ones who've been rocking with us for the last couple of years. Y'all done heard this story
Yeah. Y'all
50
probably
million
tired of the story.
times. Y'all probably tired of it, but we definitely want to catch
Catch
the
them up,
news.
because it's important that y'all know the story, because then
Hmm.
you know the foundation of where we're coming from when we do
Hmm.
the
And
videos.
how we said we feel you,
Yeah.
we feel you. And then we keep getting the same questions
Yes.
over and over when we get email and stuff. So, um, yeah, yes, Lashonda. All right, so I was 20. First of all, it's 20. I think it was 2017. I had a breakthrough. I was at the point where I was tired of being single, and I felt in my spirit that I was supposed to be married. I was like 47, going on 48. Never had any children, never been married, never had a proposal, none of that. I had some serious boyfriends, but didn't, amount to marriage, didn't go there. Um, and I, years prior, I had gone on a dating site, and I was like, been there, done that, ain't doing that again. But I had a breakthrough. It was one, I was living in Raleigh, I had relocated from Maryland to Raleigh, and I had a breakthrough. I was crying out to the Lord. I was in North Carolina by myself, and I was like, Lord, I'm ready for marriage. I had never asked for marriage or husband, because I don't know, it was embarrassing for me to think that I was saying that out of my mouth. But this particular night, it was storming real bad, and I fell on my face, and I just cried out to the Lord, and then it was like a release that just came over me. A couple of months later, I was on social media, and somebody had posted an article about the top three dating sites, and two of the sites I was familiar with, one of them I was not familiar with, and so I was like, let me check this site out, knowing that, I said I was over it. But that was a Saturday, but prior to that, a couple of days before, my ex checked in, came back. Usually check in like every year. Him and I had been broken up at that time, like 10 years. But he checked in. He's married, very married. He checked in, but this check in was different. This check in it made me feel like I was committing adultery emotionally. And he really needed to talk to me. And I didn't like the tone of how that was. And I was like, Lord, I want my person. I don't want to entertain. That's that woman's husband. I don't want to entertain that. I don't care how much he thinks I'm a friend. I'm not the person. He's got to do that with his wife. So that Saturday, a couple of days later, I saw this, this post about these three dating sites. And so one of the sites I was unfamiliar with. So I said, well, let me try this site. So I went on the site, and I did a 30-day subscription. And I did a 30-day subscription. And over the next couple of days, like, I was getting like hit up. Like, guys were like hitting me up. And I was like, absolutely not. No, no, no. I wasn't even returning pleasantries or nothing. I was like, nah, they was coming in the DM. I was like, nah, you ain't it. You not it. You not it. But then I got a match, and the site said that I was like a 97% match with Terrence profile. So Terrence's profile came up, and usually how I would do on social media, I mean on dating sites in the past, I would, they could see if you viewed, the person could see if you viewed them. So I would, and you could see, and of course they could see what the dating app, if they matched you. And so I, I knew I figured that he saw me, and I figured that he got the alert that we matched. So I like fell back. And so after a couple of days, I didn't hear anything. And so I said, well, I was researching this. Somebody said you could see if somebody actually viewed you. And I saw that he didn't view me. And so I, I was like, listen, this when I read his profile, it was as if I was reading me. It was something about this guy that was just like crazy. And so and I had never felt that before. It was more than a feeling. It was literally Like I'm telling you, it was like I was reading me. It was everything he was saying. It was like I was reading. He was describing me, and so he was like, we've got to. She's got to be God fearing. He was very no nonsense in the profile. And so after a couple of days, I didn't hear from him, and so I was like, well, let me just send him like an emoji. So I think I sent him like a smiley face or heart or whatever the emojis were to let him know, hey, they said we're a match. Nothing. And so after a couple of days, he didn't view me. It didn't say that he viewed me. So I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. And so a couple of days after that, I get another match. This time it said we were like 96% or maybe 98%. It was a different percentage. And I was like, well, the guy in the red shirt, like, okay, it was something I felt about him, but I said, but I'm going to go ahead and entertain this guy. So I'm, looking at this guy, looking at his profile, and I was like, wow, this guy, he sound, like I feel the same thing. Well, come to find out, and the pictures were totally different, like totally different. Looked like two different people. Come to find out, it was the same guy. And I was like, what in the world is going on? And so I said, well, maybe this is his current profile. So I did the same thing. After a couple of days, I didn't hear from him. And so that was like in the summer. That was in the summer. And so I didn't hear from him. And so I said, okay, my membership was about to run out. And I was like, okay, well, what I'll do is I'll extend my membership 3 more months. And so I extended the membership thinking that maybe, because I thought he was maybe waiting for his membership to run out because he had met somebody. I didn't know what was going on, but something said, keep the membership, active, my membership. And so the fall came, and in the fall, I had forgot about the site. I had went on about my life, like, cause this was in the summer. He hadn't reached out. It was like I was going on about my life. The guy not on it anymore. Clearly, he done met his person and whatever. In the fall, I had a dream, and in the dream, I was at my house, at my apartment in Raleigh. And in my apartment in real life, I had 2 bedrooms that were on each side of the apartment. But in the dream, I dreamt that Terrence was in the guest room in my apartment. And I looked into the guest room and it was dark. And in the dark, Terrence was laying in the bed. In the bed was a safety pin that was open. And so I peeked in the room and I said, in the dream, I said, oh, this is a safety pin. Let me close it. I don't want it to poke him. And I took the covers and I covered him. I covered him up and I came out the room. The room was dark. I came out the room and I closed the door. And so when I woke up, the Lord had given me the revelation. The Lord said, pray for this guy. And I just resolved that that's why I came across his profile. Maybe he was already married. I don't know, but it was to pray for this guy, not pray that he was mine, but pray for, because this guy was in a dark place. He was in a very dark place, and this guy needed someone to pray for him. And so I committed to pray for him, and I was like, okay, Lord, I'll pray. I'll pray for this guy. I don't know what he's going through. It's not my business, but if you say to pray for him, because the covers, the Lord revealed to me that was cover in prayer. And then somebody gave us the revelation a couple of months ago that the safety pin was like he covered him in safety, covered him his safety. And so that's what I did for the next couple of months. I just pray for him. Like every week, every other day, I would pray for the safety. I would pray for the health and well-being of this guy that I did not know. And so this guy named Terrence, because the thing is that unlike anybody else on a dating site, Terrence put his real name, Terrence Smith, as his profile name. Everybody else puts an alias, but he put his real name. So I was able to call out his name in prayer. Lord, whatever's going on with this guy, whatever dark place he's in, Lord God, bring him through, bring him, peace, heal him, whatever he's dealing with. And so that's what I did. And so Christmas, around Christmas, like right after Christmas Day, on Christmas Day, which was really weird, I started thinking about this guy. I was thinking about this guy because when I say his profile like jumped out at me, it jumped out. And so I had on Christmas Day, I was thinking about him. And so a day or two after Christmas, I said, well, let me go. And this is when the flesh jumped in. This is when the flesh jumped in. Let me just remind you. So when the flesh jumped in, I said, well, let me go on Facebook to see if I can find him. So I went on Facebook, and sure enough, I put his name in. Sure enough, his profile popped up with the same picture that he had in one of the pictures on the dating app. And so I went all through his profile, and I was like, oh my God, I really like this guy. Like, oh my God, like this is weird. Like I like something about this guy is so weird. And so I shared it with my best friend, and she was like, I think you should DM him. And I was like, absolutely not. That I ain't losing my cool points. Like that's what she doesn't do. And so without her knowing, one night right before New Year's, I DM'd him, and I said, I said, hey there. I said, you don't, I said, I know this is a weird message. I said, but I came across your profile on a dating app, on such and such dating app, and it said that we were 97% a match. I don't know have you found someone? If you have, disregard this. I said, I usually don't do this. I put the bashful emojis up because I was like, I usually don't do this. Like, this is not what I do. I said, but I feel led to, reach out to you. And so I said, please feel free. You won't hurt my feelings if you don't respond. I'm good. I said, I just want to, know that I did what I was supposed to do. Enough, and so New Year's Eve, which was like a day or two later, Terrence responded to the DM. And he said, he was like, hey there. Well, first of all, no, I'm single. I'm not married. I'm single. He said, and I said, okay. So we were going back and forth chatting. I said, well, I had company. I had my sisters and them were coming in town to spend New Year's with me. And so I said, well, I have company coming in town. I said, but if feel like if you agree, we can have a phone conversation, to get to know each other, whatever. And he was like, well, since what you say, since you went through all the trouble to DM me, I guess I can respond to you. I guess I can have a conversation with you. And I was like, I was like, oh, he is real arrogant. And but I liked it. And so I was like, okay. I said, well, I'll hit you back in a few days, and maybe we can exchange numbers. A couple of days later, which was maybe I'm gonna just say it was like the 6th or 7th of January. I reached out to him in DM, and I said, hey, whenever you're ready to have a conversation, just let me know if you want to exchange numbers, if you just want to, go back and forth in a DM. He never responded. Thank you. He never responded. So that was the middle of January. So let me show you how God intervened. First of all, he was all in through this. So when I DM'd Terrence, when he responded to my DM that New Year's Eve morning, when we finished conversing through DM, I got a friend request from him from Facebook. And so I immediately accepted his friend request on Facebook. And so when he didn't respond back to me in DM on whatever the 6th or 7th of January was, I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna still be committed to praying for this guy. And if it that's what it is, that's what it is. Lord, I'm still committed to praying. And if nothing else, we're Facebook friends. If nothing else, we're Facebook friends. And so and so each month would go by, and Terrence wouldn't post anything. He wasn't a social media person, so he wasn't posting anything. And I think like on Mother's Day, he put a message out there and was like, "Happy Mother's Day to my sisters," and because his mom is deceased. And so, but other than that, but he had pictures on his Facebook, of his children and of his family, and I got to know a lot about who he was, a lot about his work ethic and things like that. And so I was cool. Like it was like I was at the point, because I was at the point where I was saying, it's gonna be what it's gonna be, Lord. Or it's me and you. And so I was very much at peace in my life. Like if I didn't get married, I was like, I'm fine with it. I had a breakthrough. I did what I was supposed to do. I felt like I made a faith move by going on the dating app, and I was like, it's in your hands. It's gonna be what it's gonna be or not. And so I was very much living my life, my best life. And so about August, I was having a conversation with one of my girlfriends, and she's like, "Oh my God, I hate when Facebook does this." She said, "I hate when it automatically sends a friend request." And I was like, "Wait, hold up. What do you mean automatically sends a friend request?" She said, "Yes, if you DM somebody and they DM you back, Facebook will automatically send a friend request as if the person sent you a friend." Now, she knew nothing about Terrence, because Terrence was my best kept secret. He was my best kept crush. No one knew about him, maybe 3 people, but she wasn't one of them. And I was like wait a minute. So that means this guy ain't really send me no friend request. And the old Jill would have just deleted him and blocked him. But I had committed to praying for this guy. And I was serious about praying for this guy's well being, because I felt like if I gave the Lord my word, like I got to honor that. And so I just continued to pray for him. And so that November, so I hadn't heard from him since the beginning of January or New Year's Eve. Actually, the end of December. I mean, the end of December, the prior year. November came, and I was at work, and you're on Facebook, and you get the little red number in your DM saying, alerting you that you got a message. Now, my Facebook, even to this day, it is the place where the family gathers. I have no friends, quote unquote, on my personal Facebook. All of it is family, all sides of my family. My father's side, my mother's side, my stepfather's side. It's just family stuff. That's what we come to find out what everybody doing. And so, and I say that to say, because a lot of our family members, we got different family groups. And so my DM is always DMing. But this particular time, something said, that's that guy, Terrence. And so I went to the bathroom. I said, Lord, I don't know what this is. I don't know why this guy is reaching out to me. I've resolved that, I've moved on. He's got his life. I'm praying for his well-being. I said, and I don't know how to respond to this guy, because I knew it was him. And so I said, but Lord, it's in your hands. I got back to my desk. I opened up the DM, and it was him. And he sent a picture of a white rose, and the white rose basically was like, just checking on you, seeing how you're doing or whatever. And so me being me, I responded. I was like, hey, friend. I was like, you sure you got the right person? You sure you're reaching out to the right person? And Terrence responded, was like, yeah, I'm reaching out to the right person. And then we started going back and forth. Now I wanna stop because we always get the questions of why he ghosts me.
First of all, the answer to that question, I didn't ghost her. But I will say that there were some things I was going through at the time. So I wasn't on social media like that. And I say that because if you knew me before, you know that I was always on social media because I was a multi-level marketing company. So I was always selling stuff, doing stuff. And so it got to a point where I had gotten myself out of a company. I stopped my membership, all this stuff. And I was actually creating a gap between me and my past so I can redefine who I was. Because I had been doing things like that for years. And you know how you get where you got that person that when you see them, it's like, oh my God, you're going to sell me something. So you kind of duck and hide. Well, I had family members that was getting to a point where they was ducking and hiding from me. So I was really redefining myself. So I put a gap and took time off of social media. I would just get on for holidays and certain things where I would wish family, friends, whatever the holiday was, you know, like she said, Mother's Day and things like that. So I really wasn't trying to ghost her, but because I wasn't on there, I actually wasn't tracking that I was missing messages from her. So when I finally found out that I actually missed it, it was a year later when I looked and it's like, oh my God, she's probably pissed. However, I felt like I still wanted, there was something inside me that said, you still need to reach out to her because you really like her. You need to reach out.
Because he had one in my, before he reached out, he was looking at my
so
profile.
I went into her profile just like she did with mine. I went into her profile, read what she wrote about herself, looked at the pictures, all this stuff. You know, I tried to backtrack and see where she come from because I know I didn't send her friend request. So I'm trying to figure out, how did I know this woman? Where did she come from? And all this stuff. So I'm reading, looking, trying to figure this out. And then I saw in my DM when she had sent me a message a year prior. And I told her that I would reach back out to her. And I never did. So at that time, I said, you know what? If she bite my head off, I deserve it. But it's worth the chance. And I reached out to her.
So he reached out to me. That was November. And I remember it was November 12th because it was
Veterans
around Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
And so so Terrence and I, we just was, you know, conversing back and forth through the DM, just going back and forth every day or every other day. You know, we would, you know, go back and forth. So that was November, but October, I was on social media because I at that point, I was doing my thing. I had a 6-figure business, consulting business, and I had built a big following on Instagram. And so that October, one of my social media friends, she reached out and she reached out and she said, her husband's a pastor. She said, my husband has a prophetic word for you. Are you open to hearing it? And I was like, oh, you know, sure. And so that evening, the two of them called me from California, and her husband said to me, he said, your king is about to come. He said, your king is coming. And he said, get ready. He said, your king is coming. And he said, and he's coming with a lot of money. That's what he said. And so, so when I saw the message in the DM, the number that there was an alert in the DM, my spirit, it was like it leaped because it was like, okay, this prophecy is coming true. My king is coming. And so so that was a prophetic word I got. But even between that January, even from the dream, the Lord kept giving me signs and clues. And I wasn't asking for them. I was literally walking around saying, please let this man post his wife. Please let him post he got a girlfriend, because I wanted to settle, like I wanted to check him off my list. And it never happened. But everywhere I would get signs, and I wasn't asking for signs. I was like, all right, Lord, well, what are you doing? Like, if you showing me this stuff, like, why? Like, it was getting to the point. But because I was okay with where I was in life, I was about to turn 50 years old in a couple of months, and I was planning this 50th birthday celebration with me and all of my sisters and my female cousins and my girlfriends, my best girlfriends. We were going to Sag Harbor in New York, the Hamptons, for my 50th birthday. So that's where I was planning, between business, working a full-time job, and planning my 50th. Like, I didn't have time to think about this guy named Terrence. But we kept, so after that conversation, we, every so often, we kept going back and forth in the DM. Maybe every other day we were going back and forth. Well, Thanksgiving night, a couple of weeks later, after he came back in my DM, Thanksgiving night, I was in Maryland with my family, and Terrence sent me a DM, and he was like, I really, really like you. He said, I really like you. He said, but he said, I want to take it. He said, I want to get to know you because I want to see where this can go. He said, but I have to tell you, I want to take it slow. And my family's like, oh my God, what is she reading? My whole expression like lit up. And I remember only thing I can reply to him was slow is perfect. The next day, the day after Thanksgiving, we exchanged numbers and we talked on the phone for the very first time. And I was in Maryland, and I mean, the conversation was so beautiful. We laughed. The whole conversation was beautiful. And then the next day we talked again on the phone. And then on Sunday, I was driving back home to Raleigh, and he called. Well, he texted. He said, hey, I'm just checking to make sure that you're on the road and that you're getting home safely. And so after then, we would text. We didn't talk every day. We would text back and forth. Again, my mind was on my 50th birthday celebration, because at that point it was going into Christmas, and my birthday was in February. And I found out that his birthday was on Christmas. And so we kept planning to see each other. And I didn't press the issue because, again, I was busy. If I talked to the guy, I talked to him. It was nice talk. He said he want to take it slow. I'm gonna take it slow. I'm booked and busy. And so we went to New York for my birthday, my 50th birthday.
She went to New York.
I went to New York. I went to New York on my 50th birthday, and the whole time going to New York, he was texting me, and and that's when I started to reveal to my girlfriends and stuff that I met this guy. I haven't seen him yet, but I met this guy, and I think we like each other. And so
stop right there. I wanted to pause right there, because what I want to do, some of y'all been putting questions in, and the questions I can actually answer if I tell my side of the story.
Okay.
So just so y'all know, somebody asked the question, what made me go to her profile to actually read about who she was? So although I hadn't responded back to her in that year and something, but every now and then I would still get on Facebook and kind of look at, like I said, the holidays and different things. I'm a veteran, so there's just certain times of the year, certain holidays and things come up where I get on and see what the fellow veterans are saying, what's going on Father's Day, Mother's Day, all those types of things. Well, every time I did, and I'm strolling through notifications, through just looking at pictures of friends, look, it looked like in my whatever I was on, it looked like every picture, I kid y'all not, was in black and white until I got to her picture, and it was in color. And it's like, who is this woman? And every time I got on there, I see this picture of this woman. And so it got to a point where I would stop, look at her picture, stare at it a little bit, look at her, pull her up, see who she is, go through her profile. Then I go back to what I was doing. And then sometimes I would stroll down, run into a picture, hesitate for a little bit, bypass it, keep doing what I'm doing. Then I would stroll back up, run into the picture again on the way back up, look at it again. So over time, the Holy Spirit was saying, you need to reach out to this woman. You need to learn more about this woman. You need to find out who this woman is. More and more, I learned that it wasn't just a gut feeling. That was the Holy Spirit saying, you need to reach out to this woman. You need to talk to her. You need to find out who she is, where she's from, all these things. So that's how I started getting to her profile and started reading up on her and looking at all the pictures. And I would go through that. And then it got to where I started seeing our DM and said, oh, we done conversated. Let me read what we said. And it's like, oh, I dropped the ball. So that's when I started realizing, oh, you can reach out to her. She might cuss you out. But by that point, the Holy Spirit had done told me so many times, you need to reach out to her. You need to reach out. I felt like, you know what? I don't care. If I get cussed out, I deserve it. And I'm going to take that one. And I reached out to her. Okay. Now, here's something I need y'all to also understand. One of the questions on there was a person said that they felt like the enemy stole their blessing of marriage and God has given that back to them. Well, here's the thing. God will redeem the time. So don't let time press you to thinking that you got to rush. You got to hurry up to push a relationship forward. You need to be obedient to God and the Holy Spirit because God will redeem the time for you all. Okay. Now I say that because I want to share this as well. She said, I reached out to her around Veterans Day. A couple of weeks later, it's Thanksgiving. I reached out to her again. From that point on, we started texting a little bit, more frequently. Then I told her that I wanted to learn more about her, but I wanted to take it slow. I said that. I want to take it slow because I'm just a slow type of person, okay? I am. However, not to fast forward the story, but I want to share this with you. When you take your hands off of it, when you take your hands off of it completely and relinquish it to God. And for the fellas on here, I want to say this is big for us. And I'm going to tell you why. Because one of the people on there said, what was it? He said, how do you know if you're the difference in wondering and waiting? Here's the difference. You can rest in God. If you go back, okay, to Adam and Eve, God put Adam to sleep. Adam was able to rest and let God do spiritual surgery on him. When you get to a point where you can say, Lord, I take my hands off of it completely and let your will be done. If it's meant for me to be with somebody because you have somebody, awesome. If you don't, awesome. That's when you know you're taking your hands off of it. And when you do, God is going to do something that a lot of people get confused. And that is he's going to move suddenly. But it doesn't happen. Suddenly doesn't happen until you take both hands off of it completely. You got to let God have it. And when you let him have it, all of a sudden he's going to redeem the time and he's going to move suddenly.
So
go on, baby.
He said slow. I was resting in God. Perfect combination. I was living my life, my best life. So we went to me and my family and my girlfriends and all of us. We went to celebrate my birthday in New York. A couple of days after celebrating my birthday in New York, the pandemic hit. New York was like the first case. We just made it out of New York when this big thing about COVID just like skyrocketed. Up until then, Terrence kept saying, we got to see each other. We actually was like a 2.5 hour away distance. And he wasn't, seeming like he was in a rush. And I wasn't pressing it. As a matter of fact, when we started conversing back and forth with texts and all of that, I never reached out to him. He was always reaching out to me. I mean, maybe on one hand, I, text, hey, just making sure you're good. But I was not the one who was reaching out. And if I didn't hear from him in 4 or 5 days, I was cool with that because I was resting in God. I was living my best life. And so So we had planned to, to see each other, but then the pandemic hit. And so we knew that, okay, we shut down. We can't even, you know, drive up the highway without having to get permission. And so I just knew that that was off the table. We weren't seeing each other no time soon. I was fine with that. I was, I was resting in God. I didn't know where this thing was going as far as I was concerned. It was just, a friendship. I was attracted to him. Yes. Something in my spirit kept on saying, it's something I didn't want to say, God said that's my husband, but it was something that was so unfamiliar. But I was just resting in God. And so by that June came, and Terrence was like, I need to see you. Like, I just need to see you. And so one Friday night, June 12th, it was raining cats and dogs. And he drove from Charlotte to Raleigh to come to see me. And because it was raining so hard, I was like, you can stay in my guest room. I don't think you should drive back. It's too dangerous. The pandemic is out. Everything is shut down. I think, you should just, stay in my guest room or whatever. And he agreed. The next morning, the only thing we can do was go out, like outside. We couldn't go into restaurants or anything. And so we were fine with that. We could get delivery, but we decided to, the next morning, we got up and we went to the lake. We went to the park and we walked the park to get to know each other. I kid you not, y'all. From that day, from that weekend, this man called me or text me every day, all day. 6 months to the date. June 12th is when we saw each other face to face. December 12th, did I make my, so in August, August, he brought his daughter up because his son was living in New Zealand at the time. He brought his daughter up in August to Raleigh to meet me. And then I think September was my first time coming to Charlotte. I came to Charlotte and he took me around and met all of his siblings, all of his brothers. We went from house to house to house to house to house because there's a lot of them.
I got a lot of brothers.
There's a lot of the Smiths. So he took me to all of them. And I remember his oldest sister, Sharon, Terrence was outside with his brothers, and she and I were in her living room, and she was like, you got a good one. She said, you got a good one. And so, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know we were item, but okay. And so, so that was my first time visiting Charlotte. So, but Terrence kept coming up to Raleigh. I wasn't, I was not making it to Charlotte. He was coming to Raleigh. And so that December, I came down to Charlotte because I was like, he's always coming up here. Let me just make another trip down there. So I went to Charlotte, and it was a cozy fall night. And we were watching Run's house, and I had on my flannel pajamas. And he said, I got to get you down here permanently. And I was like, and I said, well, dude, the ball is in your court. And he said, well, you think I'm playing? And he had a corner with all of my Christmas gifts wrapped up in the corner, which I didn't even know that. He said, you think I'm playing? He went to the stash of Christmas gifts, pulled out a box with a ring, and opened up the box. I didn't even open up the gift. He ripped open that box and he pulled out a ring. He said, you think I'm playing? He said, will you marry me? And I thought I was going to fall through.
So that's the suddenly that I was talking about. From the time she and I saw each other face to face for the first time, 6 months later, I proposed.
Yes.
God acts suddenly when you release it and give it to him.
Yeah. And they said it's an average of 4 to 6 months a guy will know. Well, let me take that back. the guy will know,
Mhm.
but it doesn't mean that he will ask you right away. But they will know. They will know. So we always say those who are quote unquote in these situationships and the guy is in your vicinity
Mhm.
and he's not moving towards you, he's not showing a interest, like a clear interest, he's probably not that into you. He might settle for you, but he's probably not that. But that's the suddenly that, yeah, it made my head, what the words say, Amos, what is it, 6 and 9? It will make your head spin. It literally, it was suddenly, it made my head spin. I was like, what? What?
So here's the thing. A question came up while she was talking that asked, did she stop praying for me? No, you keep praying. Okay. And the prayer doesn't have to be that this person or a particular person is your God ordained spouse. You just ask God and pray that whomever the person is, God clear whatever obstacle, bring them through whatever trials and tribulations, whatever issues they're going through, that God brings them to you safely in good health. And if he can expedite it, but you don't have to pray for a particular name. She just happened to know my name because I used my real name on that profile.
Which was God, nobody but God.
Yes.
This person said, how do you get to the point of surrender, and how do we do that practically? It literally is a heart posture. It really is. When you get to the point where it's like,
Have you heard of the saying, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired? That's a phrase. Now let me clarify this for you. That's a phrase that if a person says that before they do something, they lying. But if a person tell you after the fact, like you say, well, how did you do? What made you do that? How did you have, the courage to do that? And they said, I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. They're telling you the truth.
yeah, when you get to the point of surrender, of, you know what, you'll know when you're surrendering, when it's a heart,
Yes.
when it's, and for a lot of us, I know for me, I think it was my point of when I, fell out on the floor. I was at the point of, I had a breakthrough, like I had a breakdown to get a breakthrough.
Mhm.
And that was the point, because like I'm Jill. I got a lot of pride, had a lot of stronghold. I was the strong one in the family, strong Jill, like, and I needed to be broken. And so when you get to the point where it's almost like I don't care attitude. It's like it's going to be what it's going to be. And you'll know that because you'll genuinely be in that position. So to try to make yourself surrender, you're really fighting against your own will, and God is not going to override your will. He's that's why you said, Lord, search my heart.
Yeah.
Search my heart. Somebody said, did we kiss for the first time when we saw each other? When I opened that door, person, let me paint the picture. I was 40 pounds smaller. I had a halter dress on. I had a halter dress, couldn't go nowhere. We had to order pizza, but I had a halter dress on. It was in the summer. It was a beautiful Friday night, but it was raining cats and dogs. And I opened the door, and he was so quiet. This is Terrence is very laid back. He was very like, I was like, I opened that door. I jumped in his arms.
She jumped in my arms the first
I
time.
jumped in his arms. I sure did. I did. I jumped in his arms. And I think I kissed him on a cheek. I think I kissed him on a cheek. Um, and then so we were engaged. And right after we got engaged, I was a part of a Facebook group of, it was like newlyweds or something. No, not newlyweds, newly engaged.
Yeah, it was something about people getting
engaged. And so I put, our picture, because we just had a snapshot, the same profile picture that is up here. I put the picture up in that group, in that Facebook group. And I just, told the story, about, I'm 50 years old. I just got engaged and never been married, never had any children. And when I say the comments that were coming in was crazy.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of congratulations, but it was a lot of women saying, I'm happy for you, but I'm getting discouraged. And so that was kind of eye-opening to us. And so that January, we set our wedding date, and then we decided we're going to figure this thing out called YouTube, and we're going to tell our story on YouTube, because the comments were coming in so much on that group that the administrator of that group
Shut it down.
shut it down. And we were like, oh,
That's rude.
yeah, but I understood, because it was,
But
you
it
know,
was Christmas Eve.
No.
I think it was somewhere around when they shut it down. It was right around
Yeah,
the
it was a
holidays.
lot of
Yeah,
pinging.
so
they
I'm
were
pretty
getting.
sure he or she was trying to enjoy their family.
Yeah.
And this was getting, it was getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, so we decided to start a channel, and we started the YouTube channel, and that's how this channel.
That's how
this
this
channel started.
There was so many people that were saying that we gave them hope because they thought they were too old to get married after 50, that we felt we needed to tell our story.
Yeah.
And so that's how this was birthed, how this channel was birthed. And so that's why we share it the way we do. We just tell our story because we know that in our story, God was in it from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, you can't make a story like that up. You can't rewrite a chapter. God did this. And all we're doing is telling exactly what happened. And the lessons that we're sharing is things that we look back on and said, wow, this is what that meant when we went through this. We didn't know it going through it.
Right.
So that's why we're sharing what we learned after the fact, just so where you all are, you're preferably somewhere in our story, you find yourself in a similar situation somewhere where you can say, oh, okay, if that happens to me, maybe that means this or it means that. And so that's why we always point you back to the word as well.
Yeah. And I do have to say this, because there were some things that were blocking me. As I said, look, all this didn't happen until I was 48, when I came across Terrence and all of this, and got 48 when I came across his profile, 50 when we started, quote unquote, dating, talking, 52 when I got married. But I was 45 when the blocks started to be removed. Because I remember when I was 39, I got a prophecy, and the prophet said, you supposed to be married. He said, something is blocking you. He was like, you supposed to be married. And he had the whole church praying over me. And I came home from church. I was like, Mom, this prophet came to visit, and this prophet said something is blocking me. She was like, okay, well, you got to get unblocked. And I didn't know what that meant. And but there were 3 things that were blocking me, and maybe y'all can relate. And we did a whole video on this a couple of years ago. First thing that was blocking was unforgiveness. I was walking around with unforgiveness for a very close family member. Things that they did not do to me directly, but it had an indirect effect on my life. And so I was walking around with unforgiveness, because I had this thing, I don't want to repeat the cycle. And because I had that attitude and that arrogance and that unforgiveness, it was maneuvering how I was operating. The other block that I had was I bought into the Black successful woman, I don't need a man persona. You know, I'm educated, I got 6 figures, and I bought into my own hype, and I drank my own Kool-Aid, and I bought into that indirectly. That was blocking me, because I started to have a checklist, and he can't do this, and he can't have this, and he gotta this, and he gotta do this. That was a block. And the third block that I had is that I was hidden, and that can be classified under fear. I was hidden. I didn't, and I was physically hiding myself. Like, I didn't want to go. I laced it as I'm a homebody, but I didn't want to go nowhere. I don't want to go nowhere. Don't invite me out. I'm not going. I'm good at home on a Friday night. I don't want to get dressed. I don't want to go. Don't invite me. I was hiding myself. And so and it wasn't until I moved to North Carolina that I started to like really have a life and go out and, you know, be more social. But yeah, so there were blocks on me that were, you know, preventing me from like being seen and being visible. Somebody said, I want to go back to this question. She says she met somebody.
While
Where
she's
was
looking for that, for me, it was just me getting out of God's way. I didn't have a problem meeting people. I just wasn't meeting the right person. So it got to a point where I surrendered and just said, Lord, look, if you got somebody for me, great. And if you don't, it's just going to be me and you. But I surrender this. I'm taking my hands off of it and I'm letting you do this. And shortly after that, I ran into her profile.
So this person says, time frame on talking stages. Should there be constant communication? What if he has not texted at all for more than 5 days? How long do you wait, or you just let it go if he's not interested? I think that's one of the biggest things that people do that they err in. Yeah, is that they classify how long things should be, how long talking stages. It's too many variables to say how people should communicate and when they should and how long it should take. The biggest takeaway is that you need to get to know the person. And if the person is not interested in getting to know you, you need to be in tune to that. If the person, say y'all went on a date, y'all seen each other face to face, y'all were in each other's company, and he's not, you know, eager to talk to you, and he's taking 5 or 6 days to call you or text you, he might not be interested in you. But if y'all met on social media or y'all met and y'all have not seen each other face to face, it might take it. We just don't know. We just don't know. The biggest thing is that you need to get to know each other, however long it needs to take and whatever process it needs to go through.
But here's the number one thing. Put God in your life right now.
But they might have God in their life.
Let me finish. Put God in your life right now. Okay? Because here's the thing. The one thing that's going to help you understand this, if you're being led by the Holy Spirit, you're going to get discernment. And that discernment is going to tell you, because here's the thing, you can't put a time frame on it. You don't know what God is doing. So you got to have discernment, but you got to be clear that you're hearing God's voice. You got to know that it's him. That way, if something goes longer than you used to, or longer than your girlfriends are telling you, longer than your boys is telling you they would do it, you ain't listening to them. You're listening to God.
Right.
Because it ain't going to add up the way you think it's going to add up, and it ain't going to go the way you think it's going to go. Things that you would say, if that ever happened to me, I do A, B, C, D. When it's the right person, you have no idea how you're going to respond. Especially if the Holy Spirit is ordering your steps. So you gotta not only just say you're saved, you gotta not only say you're God-fearing, you gotta build a relationship that allows you to hear his voice and have discernment. So when God says, don't move, stand right here.
I'm developing patience.
It don't matter if it's been a month since you heard from this person. Don't move, because I got something I'm working on and it's coming. Or God is saying, that's not the right person. Keep it moving. You're going to know. Door. You're going to know the difference. You're going to be able to say, I got it. I'm going to keep on moving. But you don't want to go against what God is telling you to do, but you got to be able to hear his voice to know that it's him talking to you.
Yeah. And I knew it was God's voice talking to me from the first encounter that I had from Terrence. And that's why I released it, because that's the difference. Mm-hmm. I released it, but I didn't close it out. I released him, but I didn't block him out.
Yeah.
And if you went on our timeline, it was a long time.
Think about it. It was knocking on the door of 2 years from the time she saw my profile
to the time we met.
The time we actually met
was almost 2 years.
And honestly, because I didn't respond to her for so long in that 1 year, a lot of people would have already shut the door on me, and unfriend me or whatever, and nothing, because I would have never been able to find your profile after that.
Right.
And that would have been ended unless unless God said, "Boy, you need to take a trip to Raleigh," and just had us to physically run into each other. But because we never met, I wouldn't have known if that was her if I'd have saw him out and about.
Yeah.
So that's why you gotta have discernment. That's why you gotta be able to, and that's why you also gotta be careful who you tell what you tell. She did really good to not tell people what she was going through, because her girlfriends may have tried to talk her out of it, saying, "Girl, you crazy. He ain't called you in this long. He ain't responded." They would have tried, because that's how friends do. We love you. We got your back. Well, God got my back too.
Yeah. So one of my girlfriends, an example of that is one of my girlfriends. So after, we went to New York for my birthday, I started to share, with my family, my friends, that, I was talking to this guy. Those were my close friends. And one of my close girlfriends, when Terrence and I were talking, or when we were getting to know each other, she was like, "Don't you find it odd that he is not inviting you to Charlotte?" And I was like, "Nope." Because if I would have fell into that, like people's opinions, I would have sabotaged. I would have had, the enemy would have tried to abort with God's blessing. I was like, nope. And let me tell you why I was like at peace with it. Because the second time I went to Charlotte,
I proposed.
I came back with a ring. I was like, nope. I did say that. Jill, did you say God told you Terrence was your husband? So, to be truthful, I could not emphatically say that until after he became my husband. But I now know in hindsight that that's what he was speaking to my spirit. When I read Terrence's profile, I can say now, looking back, God was saying that was your husband when I read his profile.
And that's why a lot of stuff we tell y'all, we're telling you from looking back. We didn't know these things when we were physically going through it.
It was strange to me. And that's why I say you got to be careful when you say somebody's your husband. You got to be very, very careful with saying that. Like, you got to be careful, because for one, you could be blocking your own blessing if he's not. But a lot of people say that. A lot of women, that's probably one of the main things we get, people emailing us or DMing us saying that God showed them their husband. And a lot of times it's off of emotions, because the emotions do. So I was having I was in a season where the Lord was developing me spiritually. And so I was able to start to hear some things in the spirit realm. And this was very unfamiliar. It wasn't a feeling. It was hindsight. Now I know it was the Spirit of the Lord speaking. But yeah, he did tell me it was my husband. He did. And I kept getting signs. How long was it before you told Terrence what you sent God was telling you about him after we got engaged?
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah.
I never said God said you were my husband.
Yeah. And I never told her that the Holy Spirit told me to reach out to her. We didn't talk about this until we started sharing it with you guys on this platform.
Jill, after God told you that Terrence was your husband, were you intentional on not dating I wasn't dating anyway. Because I was, first of all, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Like, I'm all into, when I'm into something, I'm all into 100% into that thing. That's why I used to always say, I don't want more than one child, because I don't know how to separate the love, even though God would have taught me how to do it. I mean, he would have put it in me, but I was like, I have to put my all in. Like, if my focus is on a work project, like, I'm not the best at multitasking. I'm just not, because I like to put my all into things. God gave me twins. That was, God makes, jokes sometimes. He gave me twins. But no, I didn't date until, so the guy before Terrence was 2012, 2013. And I tried to go out on a date with a guy that I met in Raleigh. It was horrible. But I wasn't a dater. So I was at peace with my life. I was about to turn 50. I was like, okay, Lord, if it's just gonna be me and you, we Lord made me at peace with it. And I was at peace with it. I'm rocking out. I'm just gonna be the best auntie I can be, and I'm gonna rock out with this for the rest of my life. I'm good. I'm, fulfilled. I done, practice my gifts, talents, and skills. I'm fulfilled there. You giving me good consulting business. I have a career. I'm good. I'm good. I'm traveling. I'm doing the things I like to do. Yeah, I want to be married, but I was at peace with it because I was at the thing. I was at the mindset. Well, Lord, if you don't want me to be married, I won't be married. That's before a God-Ordained union came up. But yeah, I was at peace with it.
Here's something I want to bring up to somebody just put in the chat about, you got to have patience and discernment. That's something we hadn't talked about a lot, but it's something that you really need to get this. Your belief, your faith, okay, and your trust in God is a choice. There are times, because we already said the enemy don't want you married to your person. Okay, the enemy doesn't care about you being married to anybody. He just doesn't want you married to your person because your purpose is going to be attached or associated with that person. Okay, so with that being said, you have to understand to make that choice, knowing that some days you wake up, it ain't going to look like something is going on in your favor. And you still got to make that conscious decision to say, but I'm still going to trust God. Although it don't look like I can feel his presence today, I'm still going to trust you, Lord. Still, I trust you, order my steps. Even though today I don't feel like your presence is near me or your favor is on me, I'm still going to trust you. Why am I telling you this? Because it takes you having patience also, because you don't know what God's timing is. So don't get caught up in, well, I've been in God's waiting room for 6 months or 2 years or 10 years. And that, no, you need to trust God enough that you ain't even counting the days. You're just saying, Lord, when you're ready for this to happen, I'm here.
Yeah. And until then, I'm resting and doing. Yeah. But LaShonda is right. The surrender has to happen because that's saying, I relinquish my will, Lord, for your will, because he's not going to override your will. He's not going to override your hands in it because he gives us free will. So as long as you got your hand in it, as long as you're navigating it, how it should be, when it should be, what time it should be, who it should be, how it should look, it got to go on according to this list. It's got to do this. God says he gives us the desires of our heart. And so he knows, and it all really boils down to a trust in God. We can't even surrender until we can trust God, until we even believe God that there is a God.
Let me share something with y'all about this list that people talk about. We as human beings are very limited, and we don't know what we don't know. So even when you think, oh, I got a full list, it's got 200 things on it. Well, guess what? It's still limited to what you know. But God knows not only what you need today, he knows what you're going to need 10 years from now. Yes. And he's going to have a person that not only is going to have grace for you in areas where you need grace, but they're going to have talent, skills, that and gifts that you're going to need 10 years from now that you don't have yourself. They're going to have it because God has already prepared them for what's going to happen in the future. So your list that you think is complete, God is going to add like another 200 things to that list that you don't even know you need tomorrow. He's going to put in the person that is he bringing to you. So
I never knew I was going to have or need a kind man. That would have never been on my list. A kind man.
Yeah. So
that would have not, and I can't imagine a husband who's not kind to me.
Yeah. So, I appreciate when people say, well, I got a list. It's a third list. It's got 150. It's got 200. Trust me, God's going to add some things to that list that you ain't never thought about because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. And this is the thing, you gotta, your belief has to be
On steroids.
on steroids. You know, listen, don't let everybody counted me out. Even the people who were silent about it counted me out. And guess what? When we got married, everybody who we invited to the wedding, they were here in bells and whistles. They was like, we're gonna witness Jill getting married. Because so many people thought I was too mean, too stubborn, too independent. They counted me out.
Look, we have gone to multiple weddings of people that were at our wedding.
Yes, since.
Yeah.
Yep. Since our wedding, multiple people after us who got married. But yeah, you've got to, this is God. No, you desire marriage, God has it for you. He has it for you.
Yeah, that's why we say, get into the word about what it says about your personal situation. That way you can stand on those things, especially on the days when you feel like, something is off. Something is off. Go pull that scripture up that you've been standing on and just get into that scripture and get it in you. That way you're not repeating something negative that day when you feel something's off. You're going to repeat what God's word actually says about your situation.
Yeah, learn to pray. If you don't do this already, pray the word. Lord, your word says, no good thing. And that's the scripture I stood on. Lord, you said no good thing will you withhold from me if I walk upright before you. So if this man is a good man, you're not withholding him from me. So if he's not coming, that means he's not a good man, because no good thing will you withhold from me. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as Lily, listen, yeah, they counted me out. They counted me out. And so God has your person. He has your person. And so yeah, you just live. Yeah, that's you know what, LaShawn, I'm glad you said that. She said she was used to dating thug type of guys, and so many of us, we are attracted to those types of guys. That's a trick of the enemy in itself as well, to want a mean person or want a thug type of guy, and to think that is security. And it's a false sense of security. We think that this guy got us, because he's, thug, because he could fight good, or because he, we walk down the street, we feel protected. No, it's nothing like having the protection of a husband because people respect him, not because they are scared of him. There's a difference. And so, the
protection that God has given y'all favor. So you're going to be able to walk into places that you normally couldn't walk in, knowing that you're not going to be bothered. Why? Because God has got you. He's protecting you.
Yep. That's right.
Because the one thing that I've learned over the years since we've been married, and the things that we've been learning, reading the word and studying for these videos and things, is the fact that we've been fighting the wrong type of fight. Because the word says we war at the principalities. So ain't no need me putting these up. What am I going to do with them?
Get in that prayer room, because
I got to get in the prayer room.
That's the other thing. You don't know what's holding your spouse up. So the enemy is working all kind of overtime and all kind of angles to stop it. So when the Lord said, pray for this man, when he said, pray for this man, I didn't know why I was praying him. I was like praying for his well-being. Like, I didn't know what he was going through. I didn't know what he was dealing with. I don't know this man. And I don't need to know what he's going through. If the Lord say, pray for him, pray for him. And that's what I did. Not only did I pray for him, I fasted every single week. I fasted. And it wasn't religiously. I fasted because it was drawing me to it. It was like I was fighting something in the spirit realm. I fasted. I prayed. I fasted. Like it was like I was going in, and I watched what I listened to. As far as I would keep that one song in my ear, Work Your Faith by J. Moss. I would keep that in my ear. I didn't know what was going on. I felt like E.T. I was like, I was trying to phone home because it was so weird. It was weird. I had never experienced anything like this in my life.
The private group is called a God-Ordained Connections.
God-Ordained Connections. We meet every first and third.
That's the name of the private group.
Yeah, and we're meeting next Tuesday. Yeah. So, and once God healed you, you no longer attract the same spirit. Yep, that's a whole another topic. Which goes back to the wandering. So if you're wandering, that's one of the ways you know if you're wandering, because you can be saying, I keep checking every time I date a man, every time I go on a date, he wants sex. He wants sex. No, boo, that's you. That's something you carry. You attracted these type of men.
And you know, because the enemy work in cycles, God work in seasons. So it's a different. That's so when you exactly.
So you keep saying you're attracting the same type of, but I got nutmeg on my forehead because every time I turn around, why do I always keep attracting the same man? Every time I go on a date, they always talking about sex. Boo, that's you. That's you. No, the group is actually for singles. It's not for marrieds. We're only 4 years in. Our target audience is not married couples. It is singles.
Yeah, it's helping people through God's waiting room.
We talk about she said, what do we talk about in the program? Any and everything. It's basically like a group coaching. Yeah. You can bring your questions. We see each other. We get raw. It's
put your feelings in your pocket.
Yeah, because you might get your feelings hurt.
All the people there are going to comment on everything that we're talking about. So there's people that's going to agree with you, people that's going to disagree with you, people that's going to tell you things that's going to inspire you, but there might be some people that's going to tell you something that might make you mad. But we talk openly about everything.
Thank you for saying that. Next Tuesday is the 5th Tuesday, so we won't be meeting. And that's also 4th of July week. So you're right. We'll be off next week. So it's the following week, the first Tuesday in June. So the 1st and 3rd of July, the 1st and 3rd Tuesday. If you want to join the private group, go to our website, God-Ordainedunion.com, and you'll see it where it says God-Ordained Connections. God chose a Caucasian introvert nerd, someone I would have passed up, but he is so handsome and gentle. Okay. Amen. The group is it in person or online? It is online. It is on Zoom.
Yeah. So now we can see you. You can see us. So it's a little bit more intimate because now you can see who you're talking to. You can see everybody else is there as well.
Yes.
That chooses to show their picture.
Yeah. So S. Lily, she joined. S. Lily been in the private group since we started. So she said she enjoys the private group. It's good to get other perspectives from other singles. Yes. And a lot of the women in the group, we want more men in there, but we want men in there.
Fellas, if you're here, we need you in the private group.
Yes.
Because the male perspective is missed. We need that in there.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. All right, husband, it's past our bedtime.
But you know what? This is a good reason.
Yes. Any other questions before we shut it down? We have a video dropping Thursday. The Lord gave me a word a couple of days ago, and it is dropping on Thursday.
Yes.
That video is dropping on Thursday. So, yeah. All right.
Hey, but look, if y'all finish with questions, then we're going to call it a night.
Yes.
We really, really, really appreciate you all for being patient with us. We appreciate you all for spending this evening with us. And as always, we look so forward to seeing you guys in our next video.
Yes. All right. Y'all be blessed.
Peace.
Peace.